Lindsay, you're back from Uganda. First of all, I mean, for everyone who doesn't realise what's going on, why are you counting Uganda in the first place?
Just because I thought it'd be a really good thing to do, basically. Yeah, during COVID, I was speaking to the coaches I knew over there, and we'd done a lot of tag rugby stuff and working through a charity, and we just got speaking about Rugby League, and we got chatting about how cool would it be, Jamaican bobsled team, let's have a Ugandan women's rugby team, why not? And it just kind of snowballed from there, and I was speaking to Clint at York about it, and I'd seen what Ghana have done with Salford, and I think Nigeria and Hull FC, they've got a bit of partnership. So I said, oh, can we, partnership with Uganda? And he was all for it. So the next thing was obviously, let's get out there and see what we can do.
And I assume it's not as simple as just saying, right, let's book some flights and turn up there. There must have been a lot of work to go into this.
Yeah, well, it did help that there was some really cheap flights out there, which helped with the number of people that went out. So that was good. But no, we just worked with the coaches, came up with a program where they've got 4 teams out there that we could work with their teams, and we tried to culminate and be there for their finals, so we could support them, see what was going on, and yeah, we timed it really perfectly, to be fair.
In terms of untapped talent, do you think that the African region is one that the sport as a whole should be looking at to develop?
Yeah, I think we'd be stupid if we didn't. I mean, I don't know what percentage of the Premier League's made up of Africans, but everywhere you go in Africa, there's the Man City School of Football, the Everton School of Football, and I've spoke to contacts that I've got in football, and they say, even if you find one player out there, it pays for the whole programme for years. I know football's a different level to rugby league, but I mean, we only saw 4 teams play, and the amount of talent was unbelievable. And probably slightly different talent to it. In the men's game, we were seeing footwork like you never see over here, pace that's just electric. Probably not the size that we've got, but it would be definitely an addition. And the women's game, they can all ball handle, which where we haven't got a lot of ball handlers. We've got a lot of athletes and a lot of runners, but we haven't really got any that are that great with ball in hand. And they're showing dummies left, right, and centre, so it was brilliant to watch.
Safe to say as well that it's a two-way street, that we shouldn't look at it as just as you going over there to support them, that if there was somebody who was incredibly talented that you felt could go into your either scholarship or academy or women's development system, you'd be keen to bring them over and give them a chance.
Absolutely. And we're already starting looking at visas and what we would have to do and the type of funding that we would need. If we got a sponsor on board, I'd really love to bring 2 or 3 of the girls over, maybe in pre-season for a few weeks just to see how you go. But yeah, there was probably 6 I saw that with a little bit of coaching, they'd be able to play in the first team. They were that good. So yeah, it'd just all be down to funding and probably try to get a sponsor for them as individuals. Because obviously when they came across, they wouldn't have any money to sustain themselves, and living in York can be quite costly.
What was the experience like then going out to Uganda? I mean, the furthest I've been is Cyprus, which is, pretty much like here, but sunny. But what was it like being out in Uganda, a completely different environment to York?
Yeah, it was brilliant. And, I've been out quite a few times in the past, but, I really enthused off seeing the girls, and, the 7 girls that we took, the players, they'd never been to Africa before, and they just absolutely loved it. What are the rules? There are no rules. You just run with it, and that's my type of place, really. Bit mental at time, and nobody keeps to time. If you say 8 o'clock in the morning, they probably mean about 10 a.m. So once you've got over that barrier, you're away. But no, it's brilliant. It's just crazy. It's just a million miles an hour compared to over here.
I don't know about the million miles an hour, but they're doing whatever you want at what time you like. So it appeals to me. What do the players you took out there? What did they get out of the experience?
Well, my big aim for them was to really empower them, and I didn't want them to just be a bystander to me, working with the coaches and the refs and stuff like that. I wanted them to really take it on board. So Rihanna Marshall, Alicia Clayton, they were tasked with looking at all the referee stuff, the signalling, positioning on the field, and for the whole week they worked with the referees, spoke to them, and they were in charge of that. They were all tasked with leading on the coaching specific areas, and yeah, it was tough for them. We'd got off the plane at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 2 o'clock that afternoon we'd travelled an hour down the road to like a bit of a school field that was really long grass, banana trees all the way around it, stones, rubbish on the field, and they were just thrown straight into it, and they just like I said, just ran with it and loved every minute.
In terms of also helping out, you mentioned obviously referees, coaching, playing. Clearly, you looked at, but you took a lot of kit as well. And again, there was word coming back from Uganda how important that had been for them. You know, I think you left them boots and shirts and various pieces of equipment, all donated, I believe, by people that you went round before you went out. Again, vitally important if you're going to leave a legacy after you've gone.
Yeah, unbelievable. And the airline allowed us to have 2 23 kg bags. So, we said as a group, we will maximise that. Everybody will have 2 full bags, 23 kg. Some of them even just took hand luggage in terms of their own personal stuff so that we could take as much stuff. But to be honest, we even had to leave some stuff here. We had that much. Bishopthorpe School in York, they raised loads. Even some of the local clubs and as far as like Hull FC, they donated a load. And then we just had like a station in the shop where people could come in at the York shop and just drop bits and bats off, and we got loads from that as well. So leaving stuff for them, when we first went and they're all playing in either bare feet or trainers that didn't match, to suddenly having Joy Carter, someone that we linked with, she gave us actually loads of brand new Sondicare boots, and they were just loving them. So it was just great to be able to take something, not just show up and help, but actually leave something there.
You mentioned Clint as well. We interviewed him at the start of the season about his vision for York, which I think this includes it. Very progressive at the moment, and with IMG and everything they're proposing, trips like this, again, as we've said, are two-way streets that you're furthering the club's name in a new continent. How important has it been for you to be at the head of all of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And, everything that I enjoy about rugby, the performance side, working with the players, working with the staff is great. I love that. But doing other things like this and giving those players the opportunities, real life-changing opportunities, making lifelong memories is as much part of rugby for me as it is, executing a play or being able to tackle well. So, yeah, it's a massive part of what I'm about, expanding rugby and getting different experiences in it. But the clubs they just back me on everything that, to go up to the chairman who's, just starting and saying, I really want to run a trip to Uganda and, donate some money there, and can we do it? And he's like, yeah, brilliant, let's go for it. So it's great. And if the club can get anything out of it in terms of return players over the next few years, then we're going in the right direction.
We've just come off the back of a World Cup, obviously, where Brazil were headline attractions thanks to the fact that it's completely surreal to have a South American team in the Women's Rugby League World Cup. Well, just any Rugby League World Cup. But what will it take to have an African nation, a Uganda, say, playing in a Women's World Cup in a few years' time? Is it purely a money thing as well as the experience of you going out there?
I think the plan is for them to have an African nation in the 2029 World Cup. That's the plan from the IRL, as far as I'm aware. So, we would love to be competing with the other nations, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and, fighting for a spot to be in that. How it would actually unfold in terms of the, getting the girls' passports and paying for it, I don't really know. But that's the journey that we're on, and hopefully we'll, try and see it through.
As you say, it's a matter of finding sponsors for them to come over here. How hard is that going to be for that next stage to get the players to come over and experience life as a women's Super League player over here?
Well, I don't know. I suppose I haven't really, gone back to the club and asked anybody yet. But there was 2 girls in particular. One who just reminded me of Hollie Dodd. She was just the way she moved, her balance, her ball skills, her pace. She had Hollie Dodd written all over, and I'm thinking, wow, how have you had the most minimal coaching and you can do this? So, the next year or so, that will 100% be my aim, to try and find some sponsorship or funding to get 1 or 2 of them over. And as soon as you can show everybody that talent, not just in York, but across the game, then people might start opening their eyes to the other nations that can play and want to play.
You took a media representative out there, and your social media output was absolutely fantastic, even allowing for some of the Wi-Fi issues. How important is that in getting the York name across in Uganda, because you're opening up a new market. But also, how much media interest was there in the country as to what you were doing and what perhaps legacy you might be leaving?
Yeah, loads. We were just inundated with messages, wanting quotes and wanting to come down and have a look. There was a bit of a launch day on Friday where we had to actually demonstrate rugby league to the media, because they didn't really see the difference between rugby league and rugby union. And Seb, who came out with us, who did the media, all of us were self-funded on that trip. So for him to want to come self-fund himself and spend every evening, when the players were finally getting to let their hair down, he was sat madly trying to walk around the place, trying to get Wi-Fi and upload little videos and stuff. I know he got really frustrated because he had so much more he wanted to put out, but it just wouldn't load. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few more bits coming out in the next week or so.
Yeah, he was taking pictures of flying ants at some stage, wasn't he? But
yeah, then they started eating them, which was random.
Again, in terms of what you did out there, you talked about going to the two grand finals, identifying talent. One of the girls, Sano, scored 6 tries in the women's grand final, and that might be the one that you've identified as the new Hollie Dodd. But you went into schools as well and oversaw touch tournaments. How do you think that the youth of Uganda will take to rugby, which is a sport that they're completely unfamiliar with?
Yeah, we did tag rugby, and that, I set that up as much as for my girls as it was for them, because there's something so exciting and cool about going into a school, taking these kids that have never played rugby. You've got maybe 30 or 40 kids, you've got to whittle it down to a team of 10, and then you take them to a central place and they all play each other. So of course all our girls, arguing with each other, competing against other, because they wanted their team to win. And then just to see the excitement on the kids' faces to play in, they were given proper kit to put on, and we brought water and bits and pieces. But there was a sad side to it as well, because they'd obviously done that much exercise. We had one girl pass out, and we had to kind of rally around trying to get her a bit of food. They were all quite hungry, to be honest, and all as much water as they could take, they were getting on board. So for our girls to see that side of it as well, I think they've really taken a lesson as to how good they've got it over here.
I feel a bit now you've mentioned all this. I was about to make a joke about Seb being used to not having Wi-Fi going to various grounds in the country, but it seems a bit odd when you put it like that. It does make it seem that we don't half have it easy at times over here, but it must have been a great experience, and one which now the players have gone back and told their teammates about. I'm guessing there must be more wanting to go out for the next trip out there.
Oh, they were all messaging me while we were away, saying, I didn't think it was going to be like this. I wish I'd have come now. But of course, when you say it's, the flights are £500 and we're leaving in 6 weeks, you need to take a week off work, and they're going, Uganda, I've never really heard of it. I don't know what she's doing out there. But yeah, they all want to be coming next time, and to set up a bit of a pre-season camp would be amazing.
And it's not just the rugby. You are changing perspectives of what people think about the country, which, as you say, we may not know too much about.
No, that's it. And, everybody listens to the Band-Aid song saying there's, no rain or rivers flow. And, we were absolutely soaked for the majority of the time when we were out coaching. It's completely different probably to what people expect. And it is very vibrant, and, there's so much going on, and the interest that we got, just lads walking past, saw games going on, came in, was cheering for the teams, and yeah, it was unbelievable. And this is the first time I've ever been to Africa and actually done rugby league. It's always been a variation of tag or rugby union, but to actually see them playing the ball and getting back 10, and the referees, in the calls it was brilliant, really good.
And a huge commitment from everybody at York to go out in the middle of your current Super League season as well. How much of a consideration did you have to make to keeping everything going and focused on what you might well achieve this year, but actually being away for best part of a week and then getting over it when you come home?
Yeah, that's it. And I put a lot of thought into it. I took them to Catalan to play. We had a couple of weeks off in the summer last year, and I thought, come on, let's get away, do something a bit different while still training. And that probably knocked us for 6. Actually, they probably had that good of a time that they came back on a bit of a downer. And so I was mindful not to let that happen again, because it probably killed off the back end of last season. But we're pretty early in the season at the moment, and we had 2 weeks off, so we've got this Sunday off as well. So I thought, we've probably got a bit of time, and they say as change is as good as a rest, don't they? So yeah, it's probably a bit of a gamble, but the players who were here who had a week off as well, you know, they benefited from that as well. So hopefully it'll just kickstart us again.
And how will you follow it up? Are plans already in place for the next trip? I know that when you put out a statement when you got back, you said couldn't wait to go again. But what is the plan? Will you go at the end of this season? Will you go this time next year? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think, you know, definitely within the next year, I'd like to go back, maybe do something with pre-season. I mean, the big idea I'd like to do is to maybe try and buy a field out there and have a York School of Rugby and, you know, try and make the whole thing sustainable without York just donating, make it sustainable, because there's no rugby fields out there. You could rent it out to the football, the rugby, netball. They'd all want to hire a field if we had one, and they're not too expensive. So, you know, I might start looking for a sponsor for that and get all this talent coming through one place. Myself and Hendo could go out looking at the talent and, you know, really try and set it up in a big way. But in the meantime, yeah, just keep the communication up with them and perhaps go to a different part of Uganda next time.
Is it pleasing? Is it to be part of such a progressive club? Because I'm thinking back to, I went to primary school in Selby too many years ago when the old York club was around. We didn't know what Rugby League was, but now you're spreading the game not just to North Yorkshire, but around the world.
Yeah, you know, it all comes from the top. You know, it's not just me. Clint is, you know, got his eyes wide open and he knows how big, you know, rugby can be. You know, he was brought up in Queensland where it was the main sport. And for our area, we look at the whole of North Yorkshire, you know, all the way up to Newcastle and out to Scarborough. There's not a lot of rugby league at all. So we definitely have aims to spread it in that area. You know, the M62 corridor is probably saturated, but yeah, anything else we can do on an international scale is only good for the game, and the experiences we get selfishly are worth it.
Cardiff in the Challenge Cup, speaking of a place which is quite outside the M62 corridor, how much are you looking forward to that one? Because they've obviously been making big waves in the Women's Super League South in the past few years.
Absolutely. I actually played with a few of the girls' sevens when I finished playing, so I know how good some of them are. There's a lot of transition from rugby union and have played Wales rugby union, so they're going to be a real tough team, and you know we're going to have to be at our best to turn them over. It's great that it's at home. It's great that it's a double header with the men's quarter as well. So it's just going to be a great day, and like you say, to get another team apart from the local ones coming up and competing, which I'm sure they will, is fantastic.
Almost coming up against a side who pretty much make up the majority of the Welsh national side, or certainly a large proportion of it, ahead of that game for England in the autumn. A good chance for the York-based England players, of which there are two more now, to get a good look at them face to face.
Definitely. And, Tom Brindle, who coaches them, he's great. And, we speak about rugby quite a lot, and he's really impressed with the commitment that they've shown to Rugby League and what he's aiming for with Wales. And, these girls are definitely on a journey, and they'll be coming up here wanting to impress against us. They don't play against, our teams regularly. So now they've got the opportunity to. They're going to want to come up and leave the mark.
You mentioned Hollie as well, and we spoke to her when it was announced that she was the first player that was going to go to the NRLW. You said at the time you were incredibly proud that she was, and that you couldn't see anything other than success for her. Clearly, another couple of players have now told us where they're going. Are you still encouraging our players to test themselves at the highest level, or do you have a slight concern now that if we lose too many of them, it'll detract from the competition over here?
No, I think I'm all for it, to be honest. I've grown up in a generation where I just played rugby league because I really loved it. And, if you had to litter pick on a field before you played, then that's what you did. And for these girls now coming through to get paid good money to play rugby league, if we can't offer it here, why shouldn't they go over there? And it's just up to our sport to step up. York's offering payments for games, but nothing compared to what they're offering. And if you're prepared to dedicate yourself to the sport that you love, why shouldn't you go across the world to get paid handsomely for it? That's my opinion.
That hopefully will narrow the gap as well between the southern nations and over here, which we saw in the World Cup, perhaps isn't as great as some people thought it was, and maybe having some of our players first hand in their competition, they'll come back and play for our national side and help that. How much of a blow do you think it was to have a postponement, as it is at the moment, on where the World Cup is going to be played in 2025, and talk that the expansion to 16 nations for for women might not now happen until 2029.
Yeah, I probably don't think we're there to have 16 nations yet. You saw the difference in ability at the previous World Cup. I think a lot of the players came off the back of this World Cup obviously pretty disappointed that they couldn't get to a final and probably didn't perform as well as they could have done. But nevertheless, it was great for the sport in this country, and it's encouraged so many more girls to play rugby league. And like you say, if girls are going over there, getting that extra experience, doing more training at a higher level, competing at a higher level, it's only gonna bring on the girls in this country. And the aspirations now a level higher. So hopefully we're going to churn out more athletes over the next 5-10 years.
You picked Hollie-Mae Dodd for her first game as soon as you were allowed to. When did you know she was going to be something special?
Well, I work in the schools around here and I run competitions, and I remember watching her play tag rugby when she was 9, and I was like, I was playing at the time and I was thinking that kid's going to be good. She was actually doing ballet dancing at that point. But yeah, I've seen her all the way through school, playing football, playing rugby, playing cricket, and yeah, she's just got that special touch, and mentally she's unbelievably focused. She doesn't get distracted easily, and I think that's a big part of Hollie being successful. And I think I threw her on the wing in that first game. She'd only been 16 a few days, and she went, "Yeah, fine, let's do it." And yeah, she's just kicked on. I really wanted her to go on the PNG tour in 2019, to give her that international experience before the World Cup, and unfortunately she didn't get on it. But yeah, I think she's shown that she's star quality, definitely, and she's enjoying it. By the way, she's loving it over there, so all good.
Excellent. We're all looking forward to seeing them all in action, of course, because it's going to be great to show the Aussies what they're missing out on over here. I mean, we talk about players every time we speak to playing in Women's Super League. We say, "Do you want to play in the NRLW? Do you want to go out to Australia?" What about coaches? What about you? Would you fancy a crack over
there? I've got a lot of ties here, and I like traveling. As much as I love rugby league, I like traveling, which is probably why I'm holding off doing rugby full time, because I'm a teacher, so I get my school holidays. So that's good. But who knows? To be fair, out of just to share with you, out of my squad, I actually had 5 players who were contacted by NRL teams, and only 1 took it up. So it's not like if they get offered, they all want to go. They don't. There are a lot of things over here that keep them over here, and family and careers and stuff like that is a big pull. So you have to be a certain type, or have certain ambitions to want to uproot everything, leave everybody to do it for rugby league, which is obviously what Hollie's done. But for some of our girls, it's not that simple, is it?
We saw a girls' game at Newcastle as part of the Magic Weekend, one of the curtain raisers. We've seen figures coming through in the last couple of weeks that certainly in Yorkshire and North West, participation levels are at a record high. Are you optimistic that this is a variant of the sport that we can build on, possibly even more than the men's game at the moment, to sell it as part of a new broadcasting deal, and what the future might look like?
Yeah, I think so, and I would hope so. And the more people I speak to about the girls and women's game say that it's probably the sexiest brand in the sport at the moment, in terms of people being interested in it and wanting to find out what's going on, wanting to take part in it, wanting to support it and sponsor it. So yeah, things like this are only gonna push the female side of the game, which is great, isn't it? And it all seems to be coming at once, doesn't it? It's only 2 or 3 years ago there was none of this, so it's all good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time. All of that has been incredibly valuable, I think, and given a great insight into what you've done in Uganda in particular, but also where the sport's going. And anything we can do, just let us know.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for your interest in it. We thought we'd just nip over there for a little week and have a go at rugby, but it seems like people are interested in it, so that's great. Thank you.